If you only feel happy, if you only feel joy, if you're always on the pursuit for good, you're never fully present.
Right.
And in my opinion, you're never truly living.
Hi guys, I am so excited to be here tonight with the wonderful Alexa. She is a purpose and empowerment coach, a speaker, the author of Living the Dream Today Because Tomorrow is Not Promised, a podcast host to Chasing Alignment, and an adventurer. She's a free spirit with an old soul, making people feel seen, heard, and loved through words, written and spoken. Alexa craves giving people the courage to go live their dreams through lightbulb moments, storytelling, and human connection. In a world full of can'ts, Alexa is here to tell you you can. It's time to embrace each sacrifice, to welcome the grind under all conditions, to stay humble but hustle hard, to find each small victory, and be on the pursuit to your happiness. I found Alexa literally on Instagram. She had posted something that just spoke to my soul, and I reached right out to her and knew we had to do something together. And so I'm so happy to announce we'll be doing this incredible workshop with her on May 23rd at 1:30 p.m. And so she was kind enough to just hop on here with me tonight to just answer some questions you may have about what we're going to be doing at this event. So thank you again, Alexa, for being here and for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. This is the stuff that I absolutely live for. So I'm just happy to be here.
Amazing. So let's dive into some of these questions. First things first, we're all kind of biologically wired to want to avoid painful experiences. Our brains are always trying to protect us in that way. What's really powerful and unique about your work is you shift the framing around those challenging experiences and you help women grow from them and really truly see the light in their darkest of times. So I love that you say you can let this piece of your story make or break you, and you teach people how to let those chapters make them instead of breaking them. So for anyone out there who's really struggling to come to terms with some of the difficult things that they're encountering right now, what is the most important reason they should join us at this workshop?
So for a long time, I'm not going to lie, the reason I have reframed this is because I ran from my pain and I ran from my problems or the chapters of my personal life story that felt very heavy. Mm-hmm. And it's when I've been able to move backwards and connect the dots that I've truly been able to find the purpose in each of those painful moments. Yeah. And that if you only feel happy, if you only feel joy, if you're always on the pursuit for good, you're never fully present. Right. And in my opinion, you're never truly living. So feeling everything, feeling the pain, feeling the heavy, feeling the rock bottom, feeling the sadness is like an opportunity to live more fully.
That is so true. And I feel like it's just so interesting to try to wrap your mind around looking at it like that, you know, because it's so easy to get so in your feelings and just stuck in those dark places. But when you can kind of step outside of that moment and look at the big picture and like how it's affecting your life overall, I just think there's so much power in that. So that's amazing. And it's also so much easier for other people, I think, to point that out for you than it is for you to see it yourself, you know?
For sure. I mean, when I wrote my book, which is 3 years ago now that I published, I definitely was in the state of living the happy and again, doing that running. And so now I'm finally at a place of healing, not just sharing experiences. And that the healing process is a process where you truly have to move through it and not around it.
Yeah, makes so much sense. Amazing. You sort of started to touch on this, but another question I had was when you made your own mindset shifts around some of the tragedies that you encountered, what were some of the biggest changes in your life that happened after making those shifts?
Boundaries, I think, is one of them. And I literally probably a year ago was like, hey, what's a boundary? A friend of mine said something like, oh, I have a hard boundary around that. And I'm like, interesting. What is this thing that you call boundaries? And so I think in my healing process, I've really tried to establish and have patience with myself of like how hard it is to like truly honor your boundaries. And then I think the three things. The second thing would also be knowing that not everyone's going to come with you. And like that's okay and that's important and it's necessary and it's hard. But truly, like if you're growing, you're going to leave people behind. And then the third thing is knowing that even when you're in pain, you have the opportunity to make someone feel better because you exist. And whether that's in sharing your story, being able to connect with someone on a deeper level, be that stranger that makes someone feel something special, like to have the opportunity to feel better because you exist. I mean, that's so freaking powerful. Like I can just sit on that thought all day long. So boundaries, making people feel better, and then, truly sitting with where you're at.
So true. It's so true. We've had a lot of discussions in the group about boundaries because I think it does come up so much in friendship. Like a lot of times I think people think about boundaries in terms of like the workplace, right? Like separating work from personal life and things like that. But it's so important to have good boundaries across all areas of your life, including friendship, which is an area that I don't think is talked about as much. So we've definitely like done some things before to kind of highlight that because like you said, it's not easy. It's not something that comes naturally to people. And some people like feel bad when they're trying to like put a boundary in place. And so, yeah, I could talk about boundaries for a long time. It's such important stuff. Such important stuff. What would you say is one thing anyone watching this right now can do in this moment to start finding peace around some of the difficult things they may be going through?
Okay, I love this question because it like totally, this is one of my favorite ways to explain this. And I'll try to do it not talking your ear off. I want you to imagine that there's this book that you really want to read. Like you've been dying, you pre-ordered it, you're so excited. As soon as you get it, you start to read it, and all of a sudden you realize like a chapter is completely ripped out of the book, and you're pissed because like I've invested into knowing what's about to happen. Now I don't know, and you keep like looking through the rest of the book, trying to find this missing chapter, and you realize other paragraphs are crossed off, pages are ripped out, etc. And then the thing that we all forget is we are writing our life story every single day. We have this imaginary pen, writing and closing chapters, writing new titles, pages, paragraphs, everything. Yeah. And if you were mad about this book you just pre-ordered and bought because it was missing a chapter, you should be mad if there's chapters of your life story that you wish you could rip out. Because chances are we all wish we could rip something out. When I lost my dad, I would love to rip that chapter out. When I've been cheated on, I would love to rip that chapter out. When I cheated in school and college, I would love to rip that out. But its truth is connecting dots, picking out like the purpose in all of those painful or maybe seasons of regret or seasons of rock bottom. Truth is like, I am who I am today. You are who you are today because of every piece. And so the step to take is look at those chapters that you try to hide. Look at those chapters that you try to rip out of like your personal book. Figure out why you want to rip it out, but also figure out like, how has this shaped me? Am I running from it? Have I used it? If I'm running, I should probably use it.
Yes. I think that was the topic you were talking about when I initially found you and reached out to you, because it's just so powerful. It's like such a profound shift in perspective. And it, like you said, it's something that anyone can do right now in this moment. Like if they're feeling some type of way about some kind of difficult experience, it's like, well, what can you take from it? Like, how can you grow from it? Where can you go from here? Like, what can you do with this? Like, again, it's just so easy to like ruminate in the negativity when you're there. But if you can just step outside of it and like look at it in that way, it could be so life changing. So
yeah, I think with that too, it's another way to look at that is like, what are the things that are triggering you? And rather than being like, oh my God, why does this stuff keep happening to me?
yep.
It's like reframing it to thinking like, this is just a lesson I need to keep learning because I haven't gotten it yet. Like think about when you were in school and like had this new math chapter that made 0 sense, or chemistry, or, you know, whatever the subject being, like you had to learn lessons over and over and over again. So it's just like our ego gets in our brain thinking like we don't need to learn life or shouldn't need to learn painful life lessons again. But like the truth is like sometimes you just have to, like you just have to keep learning the lesson until you all of a sudden are like, oh my God, like I figured it out. Like here we freaking go.
So true. And again, I think sometimes it's so much easier when someone else could help you spot those things, you know, like it can be hard to do that self-reflection and find those areas of your life where you are in a pattern or you are kind of like repeating the same kind of situation, but it's a lot easier for other people to spot. And it's harder, I think, when it's a friend or someone who's close to you because, you know, they care about you, they love you, they don't want to hurt your feelings, they're going to try to be super delicate about it, but sometimes you really need that like neutral outside party to just be like, what are you doing here? Like, why does this keep happening? Let's think about it, you know? So it's really cool that you do that work. That's so awesome. All right. So another question I had, I love that you say you have to live until the day you die and not just exist, because so many people run on autopilot and they're not really truly living. So what are some can do to come out of autopilot mode and really take ownership of their life and start designing and living their dream life?
I think for me, awareness is a huge, huge piece of this. And a big buzzword that I actually hate, but I'm going to use it and then explain myself, is ultimately like, what does contentment look like? Now, I personally, like, I always look at words and think of like, what's dictionaries definition, what's society's, and what's my definition. Mm-hmm. So the way the world looks at content is how I feel about peace. Like what brings me the most peace? And rather than like being on the pursuit to happiness, I really actually try to think of it as like the pursuit of peacefulness. And for me, it's mixing in the things that make me the most present, which I kind of also like to call like the in-between. So as you're establishing this dream life, I think like the first thing to do is like truly visualize it, but not just like say like, I hope to be a speaker one day with a podcast and I want to travel a lot. When I like envision what I want my life to look like I close my eyes and like, what do you want to smell when you wake up in the morning? Like, who are the people that you're surrounding yourself with? Some that you know, some that you don't. Like, what am I wearing? Like, I'm someone who like is always barefoot. Like, what am I grounded in? What's the location? Like, what do you want your days to look like? And truly make this like this very visceral experience. And then pick pieces of that you can currently do. Like there's some things of like my vision for life that no, I'm not doing yet, or used to do and I'm not doing anymore. And it's like, but what can I do to bring that type of peace? Because ultimately that's what it is. Like the vision I have for like where I want to be ultimately is like the most peaceful freaking thing ever. So a big part of that for me is like sunsets. A sunset is like I am in the in-between. I am like noticing every color, every smell. I'm just completely present in that moment. Yeah. And that might seem a little woo-woo. It might make you uncomfortable if you haven't done that type of visualizing. But if you can't close your eyes and picture what your dream life looks like, then how do you expect to put it into words, let alone action? Right. It all starts here and like here 100%. So that to me is like the most important thing, and being on that pursuit of what makes you feel so at peace, but also so on fire.
I love it. I love it. And I love that you mentioned like taking small steps, because I think if someone's dream life looks drastically different from the life they're living right now, it can feel so overwhelming to try to make that leap. And you kind of get discouraged or maybe feel like, oh, it's never going to happen. I'm too far away from that. But if you look at it as like tiny stepping stones along the way toward getting there, it feels so much more manageable. And also, like, as you reach those smaller steps, the achievement is like motivating. You're like, okay, I did this, I got this far, I got to keep going. I'm that much closer, you know? So I love that. That's so, so true.
I think with that too, we think so many people use the word like impossible. And like since college, I've tried to take that out of my vocabulary. And the truth is, Big Magic Elizabeth Gilbert, one of my favorite books, she talks about how like no idea is new, right? It's just we all have our unique spin. That being said, like this dream life, like you're able to identify that because you consumed something that's made you believe that like you wanted that. And so you're taking a bunch of people's ideas and like making it uniquely yours, which means like if I saw someone, you know, living at this lake house and there's mountains and green trees and a lake and I'm like barefoot, it's because I've seen that somewhere.
Right.
Like someone has given me the idea that like that seems like it's really cool for me, which automatically means it's not impossible. That's like we got to knock off the impossible. It's so if it's like in your imagination, it's also in reality, and like you can make it your reality, which overall goes back to like your initial question of like doing more than just existing.
I love it. Oh my God. I feel like I'm going to watch this every day when I wake up to get me like so hyped up for the day. It's like so awesome and motivating. I love it. All right. The last question I had for you was just that I love that you love to tug at people's heartstrings and make them feel something so they can have that light bulb moment. So I wanted to know if you just wanted to share any incredible light bulb moments you've seen from your clients over the last few years. If anything jumps out, I'm sure there's been a bunch.
I think honestly, so I have a client that I'm currently working with who, when she came to me, she was like, I don't have a story. And that feels so, I forget the word that she used, but she's like, it's very unsettling to think that you don't have a story. And I can't tell you how many people think that because they think that their life isn't extraordinary. And just because it's not extraordinary, they think it's insignificant, which means that there's nothing to it. There's no volume to this. Mm-hmm. And I've now been working with her, like we're nearing the end of our 3 months together. And her specifically, we've like been able to pull out these mantras of like the connecting the dots moments where she was like, I'm finally at that place where I'm like ready to just like share like this and own it with the world. And so that's like a current thing that's happening. I also used to always say like, I want to change the world. Like I'm about to conquer the world by making it a better place. And I still believe it wholeheartedly, but I was at a school, like a 3-day 6 school assembly sort of thing. And this like young girl came up to me and was just like, I want to let you know, like you just changed my world. Aww. And to know that like that's how you change the world is by changing one person's world who's going to take that and like truly ripple it. It was so beautiful. And then this last one I'll share, I always tell like take a piece of my heart. Like I always end things that way. Like I'm like literally, I'm such an empath, such a lover, such a giver. I'm like, take a piece of my heart with you. Like, please always take me. And this boy raised his hand and he was like, I really want to take a piece of your heart. Like I do. But if all of us take a piece in this room, like what are you going to have left? And it was in that moment, this kid at the time, like, I think he was like 12. I was like, you don't even realize what you're giving back to me. Right. And that, like, there's always this beautiful exchange when you surround yourself with beautiful, like, souled people who, like, want to cultivate change in their life. Yeah. That there's this exchange that, like, no one even needs to speak of. But I didn't notice that until he said it. And it was so freaking amazing. And that's actually a very good reminder for me personally. If you guys get to know me, I am an open book. Talk a lot about my mental health, and I always felt like receiving love was very hard for me. Like I thought because I loved people so hard that I was just like naturally receiving it, and they're two separate things. So like in this moment, me just saying that out loud, I'm like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. Like I have been receiving, I just think I'm not. So I would say those are 3 out of many.
I love it. I love it. Well, I am so excited for this event. I think it's also just having these kinds of conversations. It's such a natural way to bond with people, and it's so relatable. And I think everyone who comes is going to just feel like it's such a safe space to have conversations that we just don't have in our like daily routine. Like it's not every day that you can sit around with amazing like-minded women and just open up and share your story and be vulnerable and like be there for each other and support each other. You know, you don't have to know the person to show them support. And so I think it's going to be such a magical event, and I'm so excited, and I cannot thank you enough for signing on to be there. And yeah, it's just going to be so much fun. So like I said, it's going to be May 23rd at 1:30 p.m. If anyone is interested in joining, there will be a registration link, but of course, you can always just reach out and I'll tell you how to get signed up. And we will look forward to seeing you there for this really powerful discussion.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to see you all there and connect and love on you and just cultivate some serious freaking change.